Oki, Nixokoaxi, Itaiku. Hello, friends and relatives. My name is Joseph Arnaud. I'm here with Warp Pony BMX, and today we're going to do a tutorial. My Colt Backcheck has a Stranger Freecoaster, and my Fly Pantera has an E-Clat cassette. I decided to switch drivetrains and see what it would be like. I started by taking the wheel, chain, and sprocket off of the Colt Backcheck. I'm also riding a Sabrosa Simone sprocket with the bash guard. One of the messier parts of the process was taking the chain off and transferring it from one frame to the other. I used a chain breaker for this part. You want to make sure that you don't take the pin all the way out, so I had to go back and forth checking it just to make sure I didn't go all the way through. Now that I took all the parts off of the Colt Backcheck, it was time to do the same thing to the Fly Pantera. I first start with the wheel and then work on the chain wheel and breaking the chain. I use a 6 or 8 millimeter Allen wrench to get the crank arm off, and then a 6 millimeter Allen wrench to get the chain wheel off. It's good practice to clean your parts to get all the dirt off and then re-grease them when tuning and maintenance for the bike. As you can see, I'm breaking the chain on the Fly Pantera, which came off a little quicker this time. Now that I have taken the drivetrain off of both bikes, I'm able to start cleaning up the sprockets and trading parts. The first part I have to do is get the spacer or washer out of one chain wheel and put it into the other so that it's the right size for the spindle. My Freecoaster drivetrain is going on to the Fly Pantera, starting with the bash guard sprocket. I'm tightening the crank arm using a 6 and 8 millimeter Allen wrench. I want it tight, but I don't want to over tighten it. Before I can put the Freecoaster wheel on the Fly Pantera, I have to trade tires because one tire is fatter than the other and will not fit the old school frame versus the new school frame. There's always little things you gotta think of, even the tire rotation on how you put it back on the rim, as well as adding or subtracting chain links and the gear ratio of how many teeth you have on your cog and your chain wheel. I decided to go ahead and put together the other wheel as well so that it's ready for the Colt Backcheck frame once I'm done with the Fly Pantera. Now that the chain wheel and back wheel are ready, I'm starting to put the chain on and break it to the right size. What I found out was it was too short and I needed to add some links. I bought a cinema chain and luckily I kept a few spare parts, the links that I needed to add on to the chain. It's always a good habit to keep little things like that just in case you need to use them again in the future. When I first started working on bikes when I was younger, certain things like this were definitely a lot harder to work on, and I got very frustrated. So doing this took some time and skill to learn how to get the pin in just right. Now that the chain is on, I'm able to adjust the tightness of it and tighten the wheel down. And once it's right in the middle and where I like it, I start to inflate the tire. This is one thing you gotta do, is make sure you look for what the PSI pressure is on the side. And so I'm pumping it up to around 50 to 60 PSI since it's a smaller tire. The Fly Pantera seems to be in good shape with the Freecoaster. Now it's time to put the Cult Backcheck back together. I start off by putting the sprocket or chain wheel on, which doesn't need a spacer and goes right on and fits the spindle. Since this is a newer crank, a 3-piece crank, it only requires the 6mm Allen wrench, which is nice. It makes things easier when having to fix your bike. I finagled the back wheel with the E-clat cassette hub on the frame, and then next I had to put the chain on, and this took taking a link out actually, because this newer frame has a shorter back end than the older frame does, so I had to shorten the chain, breaking it before I can put it back on. I once again tightened the wheel down, centered it in the middle, and made sure the chain was tight. Then I pumped up the tire according to the PSI on the side, which was a little higher since it's a bigger tire. It was more 80 to 90 PSI. I finally was done, inspected it by spinning the cranks and wheel, and was able to finally ride both bikes and make sure they were ready to roll. I tested them out by doing some 180s, and they both felt pretty good. I can't wait to ride them some more at the skate park. I appreciate you watching. Keep an eye out for more War Pony BMX videos.